How can Tuscan cuisine be so simple, yet so good? On today's menu. Located in the central part of Italy along its western coast, Tuscany encompasses mountains and sea, remote villages and cities. But what ties this place together is its food. Tuscans take great pride in the local bounty, sharing a taste for simplicity and a cuisine that lets the food speak for itself. A Tuscan grill master shares his secrets.
To beef or not to beef? That is the question.
A maverick of the Mediterranean fights for the ocean floor.
If the fishing practices continued as they were, he wouldn't be able to fish in a few more years. There simply wouldn't be anything left. Oh.
A Tuscan baker perfects the art of saltless bread.
For the taste of any Tuscan, this is the bread you want on your table.
What to eat on the street? Florentine style. No matter where you travel in Tuscany, you'll find culinary masters dedicated to the quality of their product. Their philosophy is based on fresh, local ingredients and a variety of dishes distinct for their simplicity.
Forse questo gruppo hanno capito to beef or not to beef. That is the question.
Dario Cecchini is arguably the most famous butcher in the world, if not certainly the most famous butcher in Tuscany. On the most basic level, I suppose Dario would like to teach people how to grill meat properly.
Io sono per I denti.
But on an essential level, he'd like to take them back to the primal experience of man, heat, and meat. My name's Lori DeMori, and I'm a food writer based in Tuscany.
The rich and flavorful bistecca alla Fiorentina is an example of Tuscan simplicity at its best. And no one does it better than Dario Cecchini. At his grilling school in Panzano, 20 miles south of Florence, he teaches students that a perfectly prepared steak begins and ends with the dry heat of an open flame. Seared on the outside and a sangue, Italian for blood red, on the inside. A steak grilled by Cecchini brings out the carnivore in all of us.
For generations, his family's had a butcher shop, a macelleria, in the town of Panzano. His passion for all things meaty has inspired him to open a grilling school, La Scuola della Griglia.
Sono sempre le tre grandi bistecche.
Dario says that in Toscana, there's 3 steaks.
Il primo
This
taglio
is the first cut of the steak, the famous bistecca alla Fiorentina.
è la più grande.
It's the largest one. It's exactly 3 of Dario's fingers.
Più piccola,
So the second steak is slightly smaller.
la costata alla fiorentina.
And
Appena
the meat, you can see, is slightly more marbled.
la terza bistecca
The third steak, which in his opinion actually is the best,
è un cuore.
it's a heart, look.
È la bistecca panzanese.
So that's the inside of the thigh. That steak is a perfect steak.
Ha bisogno di vedere un grande fuoco di grill.
It needs a perfect grill.
Allora, a temperatura troppo bassa.
Okay. One thing to avoid is meat that's too cold. You'd like it as close to room temperature as possible.
Okay.
Leave it out for 6 to 8 hours before.
Si attacca il capezzolo della mamma.
The reason that there's 2 sources of heat going on is because you keep the fire going in back and you pull forward the embers to cook on in the front. This fire has to heat the house. This fire has to cook the food. It's a continuous process.
All'anima piace.
So we've turned off our cell phones, we've detached ourselves from technology, and we have our souls that are going on a trip back
Viaggio, è un
to the
viaggio.
beginning. Oh my goodness. Woo! So these steaks are going to be cooked on both sides, and what it's doing, this is high heat, it's searing the meat. It will take 20 minutes to cook.
Vi funzionano molto bene, Lori.
Yeah, those are his best utensils, so that's what he uses to turn the meat.
La carne è perfetta così.
I've asked Dario, well, you didn't put anything on the meat, no salt, no pepper, no
Allora.
herbs, and he says It's perfect like this. Smell
In
it, and it's
questo
true.
cosa di molto molto simile.
All right, so we're basically having the primal experience of the first man who discovered fire, who had a piece of meat and put it on.
La prima bistecca è pronta.
When the first steak's ready, what he wants all the students to do is to take your first piece with your hands, nothing on it at all, and pay attention to the flavor. That's you're trying to remember what the essential flavor is. There's something about this sort of meat that's clean. This is the second steak, which is like the prime rib. Oh, the fat, marvelous. There's some carnivores around. So we're on the third, Dario's favorite, la bistecca imperiale panzanese.
Ah, guarda l'occhio, guarda.
So who's for the first one? So the bistecca fiorentina wins, which is why it's the most famous piece of meat in all of Tuscany.
Tutto quello che arriva.
What Dario would like people to do is to actually pay attention and bringing them kind of down to an elemental level. Taste things in their most simple, unadorned fashion, to ask each other, what do you think? What do you think? And having it sort of enter in on some deep level what we know about what things taste like. That's the poetry of eating. That's the poetry of grilling. That's why he wanted to do it. Grazie. Fish is one of the staple gastronomic resources of the world, and no one fights more passionately to protect this resource than Paolo Fanciulli.
Tuscans are passionate about preserving their superb resources, including those found in the sea off the Tuscan coast. About 85 miles south of Ponzano, off the coast of Talamone, lifetime fisherman Paolo Fanciulli works to protect the sea. He became an activist after seeing the devastating effect commercial trawlers had on the Mediterranean. Fed up with working through the official channels of Italian bureaucracy, he decided to take matters in his own hands and came up with the idea of pesca turismo. Like a lone crusader, he demonstrates firsthand the benefits of sustainable fishing practices.
We're leaving the port of Talamone. We're going out to where Paolo's left his net yesterday. Paolo Fanciulli is a fisherman. He is also someone who invites people to participate in pesca turismo, a practice where fishermen take visitors onto their boats to show them how fishing is done properly and sustainably and, of course, deliciously. Oh, via, brava. Good girl. There's sort of three important reasons to be doing this. One is to make a living, to teach people how to do fishing properly, but at the end of the day, also to have enough fish for all of us to eat.
Questa idea mia, che è nata nel 92.
You know, he's a fisherman and he wants to remain a fisherman. But if the fishing practices continued as they were, he wouldn't be able to fish in a few more years. There simply wouldn't be anything left. There's dragnet fishing that absolutely ruins the ocean floor. It's not only not good for the sea, it's not good for the fish, and it's not good for the fish that ends up on your plate. You'll see that this net is weighted on the bottom and has floaters on the top. The fish swim into it, but it isn't actually disturbing the seafloor at all. As interesting as it is to watch the net being let out, it's nothing like watching yesterday's net being pulled in. Here we go. It's just reeling it in. How amazing. First thing he's looking for when he pulls a fish up out of the net is it whole and not been attacked by anything?
Questo è un morso di un ragno.
This is called a scorfano.
Morto un mio parente 2 anni fa.
2 years ago, one of his relatives, a fisherman, actually died from being stung by this. And it's very poisonous along the tip of its spine.
Allora, questo è molto pericoloso. Però
Scorfano is a very flavorful fish compared to many other fish that you catch. It's used as a base for fish soup. Oh, look at...
un dentice.
Here's a dentice. This is especially delicious fish to eat.
Ma noi semplicissimo lo
The way
faremo.
that he would cook this is salt and olive oil on the grill. Fish this fresh and this good, you don't need anything else. This fish is salpa, and he calls this Sushi marimana, ramen sushi. Instead of soy sauce, it will have extra virgin olive oil. Yum. Absolutely delicious. This charcoal's made with wood from these hills, which is a mix of rosemary, oak, and myrtle wood.
C'è un grande amore.
He says it's hard to put words to the kind of emotion that being in these surroundings evokes, but something about the colors and the smells and the fish and what's living here, it pulls everything out of you. He's using the rosemary brush to take the drippings from the fish and the olive oil and paint the fish with it. This is the cooked version of what I ate raw.
È Maurizio.
They call this Maurizio, which I've never heard. It's very delicate, very flaky, chewy, slightly piney, resiny.
Il futuro del mare.
The future of fishing really relies on the good sense of the fishermen. He wishes among fishermen that there was less thought of money and profit. And through that, you'd end up with a sea that was a lot more bountiful, more respected, and easier and nicer to fish from.
Io sono un pescatore.
I'm a fisherman, and I'd like that everyone who came to the sea understood that from the sea we can't only take, but we also have to give. Tuscan bread is one of the culinary items of which Tuscans are proud. In fact, they talk about olive oil, wine, and bread being the holy trinity of Tuscan food.
In a hilltop village 30 miles southeast of Florence, Varis Venturi bakes bread the way it was done centuries ago. The foundation of a Tuscan meal is bread. Rustic and hearty, Tuscan bread perfectly complements the region's robust cuisine and inspires a local specialty, panzanella.
We are in the hills above a town called Loro Ciufena. Although the village is tiny, many people come through here. They stop at Varis' shop, have sandwiches made, and take them with them on their travels. Buongiorno, Varis.
Buongiorno Lori, ciao.
Varis is known for making pane toscano, which is unsalted, naturally leavened Tuscan bread. Tuscans refer to their bread as sciocco. It means saltless. And much of the cuisine is so salty that it's considered to be a perfect balance. Perfetto.
Iniziamo.
Allora, cosa abbiamo qui?
Oh, questa è la pasta madre.
This is the mother. This is called the mother.
Autore di lievitazione.
Varis, like all traditional bread makers, doesn't use commercial yeast. This has been rising for overnight. It's the same idea as yogurt, where there's a culture added to milk. The yeast will help the flour and water mixture rise. Traditional Tuscan bread was made in wood-burning ovens. It's the only way. They always bake bread with the wood from these mountains up here. Chestnut's a favorite, also oak. You might imagine that you would only use wood like this to start a fire, and then you'd put in bigger pieces. In this case, this is all he'll use.
Cioè la forma della cupola.
Because if you use big pieces of wood, you'd have the floor of the oven overheated and the ceiling of the oven not heated enough. Bread that's cooked in this oven is going to have a much thicker crust.
Beh, io sono nativo di questi.
In some ways, Varis didn't choose so much the life of the baker as the life of living up in this little village. So the dough has risen for 20 minutes, and he's going to start making the individual balls. Time to put the bread in the oven. Why is Tuscan bread saltless? Well, the legend goes that in the days when Tuscany was still a collection of city-states, Pisa was its own little country, Florence was its own little country. None of them got along, and they were always warring with each other. And Pisa, being near the sea,
E allora avevano il sale.
they had salt. And they had a salt tax. And so the rest of Tuscany said, keep your salt, we're making our bread without it. Meglio morto in casa che un...
Che un paesano alla porta. Hanno fatto.
There's an old saying, better a dead person in the house than someone from Pisa at the door, because that man from Pisa at the door was the guy coming to collect the salt tax. È pronta?
È pronta.
Tuscans in general have a real aversion to gastronomic waste of any kind. This is all day-old bread, and it could even be week-old bread. You could seriously build a small house with these, it feels like. One of the interesting qualities of Tuscan bread is that it has the ability to go hard without becoming moldy and to absorb water without becoming gluey. Rather than throw away stale old bread, today we're making panzanella.
Principalmente con pomodoro e cipolla e un po' di basilico.
Olive oil, tomatoes, onion, basil, just a little vinegar. Fatto, grazie. This is a perfect summer lunch. Salute e complimenti. Oh, I love this. This just tastes like summer. For his taste, and pretty much for the taste of any Tuscan, this is the bread you want on your table. Considering that the whole concept of slow food originated in Italy, you might think that the notion of fast food is completely antithetical. It is and it isn't.
In Tuscany, even fast food is known for its superior quality. Although tripe is eaten throughout Italy, the only place you'll find a street vendor like Sergio Polini selling tripe sandwiches is in Florence. Made from any one of the cow's 4 stomachs, tripe has long been a local favorite. In fact, tripe recipes from the area date back to about 1300, making tripe one of the city's oldest forms of fast food.
Sergio's carrying on a centuries-old tradition, which solves for locals the need to eat quickly, cheaply, and deliciously.
Buongiorno.
Ciao Sergio,
Come stai?
Bene. Sergio Polini is a tripaio, a tripe vendor. His tripe cart is located in the Sant'Ambrogio neighborhood of Florence. Every morning just before 8, he drives up in his 3-wheeled ape, the quintessential Italian scooter/truck, and within minutes, he unfolds its many wings, plugs it in, fires up the stove, turns on the refrigerator, and transforms the little scooter into a much beloved local establishment. The tripe stand is a unique Florentine establishment. You won't find this throughout the rest of Tuscany. Every day Sergio has a special.
Buongiorno. Ciao.
And today's special is lampredotto with white beans and tomato.
Vai. Una mezza porzione.
Do you remember from 2nd grade about how cows have all those stomachs? Well, this is the final stomach.
Ce l'hai? Dice, mi dai lampredotto?
And you can travel the world, he says, and you can ask for lampredotto, and they'll say, we don't sell it, we don't have it. Here, people show up to the stand every single day.
Ma questo si fa bollito.
Tripa alla fiorentina is another favorite.
Come si fa un bollito normale?
This is boiled, and I see...
Cipolla, basilico.
Ah, he'll make a sandwich, put it in here.
Ma io sono sempre stato al pubblico là per lavorare.
Salt. He wants it picante verde, which means both hot sauce and green sauce. And the final touch, io lo so, spear the bun, dip it in the liquor.
Bagnato nel brodo. Persone di tutto il mondo, di tutte le estrazioni sociali.
What Sergio loves about his stand and his work is not only feeding people, but standing on this corner and being able to interact with people from all parts of the world, every social strata. Yeah, there's a sort of human contact here that really can't be replicated at a major fast food chain.
Buongiorno, io sono Dante.
So Dante's come to take some tripe salad home to have for lunch. It's dressed with olive oil, lemon juice, salt, and pepper. And he's put all 3 types of tripe. The honeycomb, that kind of towel tripe, and the smooth tripe. Little bit of spice.
Eccolo.
There are track stands in the city that have added hamburgers and hot dogs to attract a wider audience. And he said, I refuse. This is artisan food. You spent a lot less, you've gotten a lot more, and you have something that's quintessentially Florentine.
Bagnato nel brodo.
Tuscany is a land that asks of the people who live here a certain sort of spirit. It's come out in the arts, it's come out in the food, it's come out in the wine and the oil and the artisans, and there's just centuries of this requirement that the people who live here fully give themselves to the thing that they do.
Perché no?
And why not? Why not do what you do with passion? This is your only life.